look at it, the waves of the rickrack kind of makes me think of cream on strawberry shortcake. Hi, this is Gwen and welcome back to my channel where I sew vintage inspired designs. Here's a little bit of background on how and why this sewing project came about. At the start of the year, I made two goals for myself. Number one, do more drafting, as in like drafting more patterns for myself instead of just sewing from patterns that are commercially available. After sewing the last dress that I drafted myself, which is the red tropical dress, I'm feeling really excited about drafting more designs myself and experimenting with different looks. The second goal that I made for this year is to sew my stash. I have quite a bit of fabrics. I have a sizable stash. It's not unmanageable, but it is there. It fits a suitcase. And the print that I'm focusing on for this year is gingham prints because I have lots of gingham prints. In today's video, I'm going to be sewing a strawberry print dress that's 50s inspired. The design of this dress that I'm making in this video is based on this vintage 50s dress that I found on Instagram, and it's a piece that was sold by a shop called Sweet Bee Finds. And of course, instead of doing like a complete copycat look, I want to infuse a little bit of my own design variations to it. Here is what my sketch looks like. And as you can see from my sketch, the main differences between my design and the original vintage dress are, number one, the design of the skirt. Instead of having a skirt with knife pleats, I'm gonna just use a simple circle skirt. And then number two, I'm also adding rickrack trimming across the bodice vertically to create a little bit more visual interest to the design. So I won't be able to cover drafting in this video, but I've written a step-by-step tutorial with diagrams to guide you through drafting this design of bodice using a basic bodice sloper. So if you want to give this a go, then head on over to my blog at Gwen Stella Made for the tutorial. So normally I really hate making muslins, but I'm really trying to learn to be more sensible in my approach to sewing and designing. So I did make a muslin, and this is my first muslin. I guess I should say first and only muslin. You can see that the pleats are kind of small, so in the first muslin I only spread the bodice by 1 inch, and post first muslin fitting I decided to spread the pattern by 3 inches instead, and again all this is covered in my step-by-step tutorial on my blog. And so after sewing the first muslin and making adjustments to the paper pattern, I decided to go ahead and cut into the quote-unquote good fabric for this sewing project. I know this print design isn't technically a gingham print, but I'm just gonna put it under the same category as all my other gingham print sewing projects anyway. And here are the different pieces that I have for putting the bodice together. This is the front bust piece that comes with the pleated design. And then here we have the back bodice with the back waist dart. And here we have the front band that actually goes under the bust piece. And we also have here the facing and the interfacing. We have both front and back pieces of the neck facing. And now we're gonna get to sewing, and I'll show you how I let the magic happen. I started by applying interfacing to the neck facing pieces. Then I sewed the front and back neck facing together along the shoulder seams and finished the raw edge of the neck facing with bias tape. I like this method of finishing the neck facing because it just makes it look a lot more clean than just using zigzag stitches. And this is what it looks like. And then I moved on to sewing the rest of the bodice together. I started with pinning the pleats for the front bust piece in place by following the markings that I transferred from the paper pattern. And then I sewed the pleats in position by using long basting stitches on the sewing machine. So at this stage, I've sewn the top of the bodice to the band here, and I've also sewn the back to the front at the shoulder seam, so it looks a little like this. And now I'm gonna attach the neckline facing to the bodice. If you're sitting there thinking to yourself, the neck facing looks a bit weird, you're right, because I actually sewed the back facing in the wrong orientation to the front facing. Anyway, I did a little bit of unpicking and fixed that mistake. And then I went on to pin the corrected neck facing to the bodice right sides together and then stitch them together in place with the sewing machine. To help the round neckline lay nice and flat, I trimmed the seam allowance of the neck facing down to about 1/4 inch, and then I cut little notches all around the seam allowance of the neckline of the bodice. And then I understitched the facing. Alright, I have just sewn the neckline facing to the bodice, and then I just suddenly remembered or realized that I didn't sew the white rickrack on the top bodice. Under normal circumstances, I am more than happy to unpick and go back to the step where I need to, add the rickrack, but since I've already trimmed the inside of the facing, I just can't go back and unpick. I'm kind of sad and mad at myself, but it is what it is. Maybe I can still incorporate the rickrack somehow. I'll have to stop for the rest of the night and just mull over it. Okay, it's a brand new day and I think I have an idea as to how I can still incorporate the white rickrack onto the bodice of the dress. I'm gonna place it on the bottom band. So I'm gonna put it over here. This is the bottom band. I'm gonna put it right here. I am also gonna put it along the neckline like this. Ideally, the rickrack should really be sewn on the bodice before the neck facing, but with a little bit of patience, I got it done. Okay, I kind of like how it looks right now. This is the rickrack that is sitting on the bottom band, but is just right under the seam. As you can see, this is the outside and this is the inside. I folded the seam downwards and also sealed off the raw edge with zigzag stitches. And then I've got the rickrack around the neckline here as well. After sewing the rickrack to the bodice, I pinned the side seams together and stitched them in place. Next, I finished the sleeveless armholes with my homemade bias tape. I've only got one clover bias tape maker and the 1/2 inch size is the only one I've got. To finish the armholes, I sewed the bias tape to the armhole right sides together first, then turned it out, understitched it, and then folded it in. And over here I am just stitching it from the outside. And if you're doing this, you need to make sure that you are catching the bias tape from the underside as you're stitching. Okay, so today is the day that I'm cutting the skirt. I know originally in my drawing I drew a circle skirt, and I was really thinking about making a circle skirt, but I decided to make the silhouette a little less dramatic. I want half circle skirt, which will save me some yardage, and maybe I can squeeze another pair of shorts out of the rest of the yardage. And I'm gonna add a little bit more details that will make the skirt pop. To draft the half circle skirt, I used some good old mathematics that I learned in school, a 2B pencil, and a measuring tape. I drafted the skirt directly onto the fabric and then simply cut it out. After that, I sewed the skirt to the bodice, right sides together. I also clipped the curved edge of the waist of the half circle skirt to help it conform and align to the, much straighter edge of the waist of the bodice. And then I attached a regular nylon zipper to the dress with the help of a zipper foot on the sewing machine. After sewing the zipper to the dress, I tried the dress on and then realized that it didn't really fit me the way I would like it to. Okay, so initially I was thinking about taking it in along the side seams, but now I'm wondering if it's because this part is a little raised, so I might have to kind of tuck the bodice in here a little bit more. This took a while, but the dress fits so much better now, and I'm so excited to show you. No, wait, there's one last thing that I need to show you before I show you the completed dress. Hemming. The internet will tell you to hang your skirt or your dress for a week or a couple of days to let the bias sag. But from my experience in using cheap poly cotton like this one, the bias does not sag. That said, I did still hang this dress up, and like I mentioned, there's no sag in the bias, and I didn't have to make any corrections in the length of the skirt at all. To hem the half circle skirt, I eased the fullness by using an iron to kind of press the fullness down, and then pinned the appropriate width of the hem in place, and then stitched it in place and added a special jumbo rig rag. And you ready? We're gonna have a look at the dress. So overall, I'm pretty happy with how the dress turned out, considering the fact that I only made one muslin and there's actually quite a bit of manipulation that happened with the flat pattern drafting. So this is basically my second wearable muslin. If you want to consider making this type of design, I would strongly encourage you to use a different type of fabric print. Something like the original, like gingham, stripes, and even polka dots, maybe bigger polka dots, because you want the print to actually have a dramatic change where the pleats are. So with the small prints like this and even like little ditzy floral prints, the pleats might not show as well, and then so you're kind of like wasting all your efforts in doing the pleated design. So that is my recommendation. If you want to learn how to draft this pattern, don't forget to check out my blog post, which shows you how to draft this pleated bust bodice step by step using a basic sloper. And I also talk a little bit about the post-fitting modifications that I made after sewing the half circle skirt to the bodice. Until next time, subscribe, like, all that jazz. Bye!